Ever walk into a room and just feel off? Like something's just not quite right, but you can't put your finger on it.
Yeah.
Turns out it might not just be you.
Interesting.
We're diving into the fascinating world of sensory design today. How the spaces around us impact us in ways we might not even realize.
Yeah, design is about so much more than just aesthetics.
Right.
It can really influence our mood, our focus, even our well-being.
And get this, you shared some research by a Japanese design professor who's found that people experience even simple geometric patterns totally differently.
Absolutely. He argues that our brains are literally wired to process sensory input in unique ways. Think about something as basic as room temperature.
Oh, yeah.
What feels comfortable to you might feel freezing to someone else. This professor says it's the same with visual information.
So, like, we could be looking at the same striped shirt, but how we each perceive those stripes, how our brains react to that contrast, could be totally different.
Exactly. He uses the example of stripes in his lecture. For some, those bold, contrasting lines are just visually interesting, no big deal.
Yeah.
But for people sensitive to that kind of visual input, it can be incredibly distracting, even physically uncomfortable, like sensory overload.
That makes me think about how some fabrics drive me absolutely crazy, that scratchy feeling.
Oh, interesting.
How my partner could wear wool sweaters all day long, but on me, ugh, no way.
Right.
Or that nails on a chalkboard sound sends shivers down my spine.
And what's fascinating is that for some people, these reactions go way beyond just disliking a feeling. We're talking about sensory hypersensitivity, where common design elements in everyday spaces can genuinely cause discomfort or even trigger health problems.
Seriously, design choices can actually make you feel sick.
Yeah.
Tell me more about this hypersensitivity. What kind of things are we talking about? It's kind of wild to think that something as simple as a pattern could have such a strong physical effect on people.
It really is. Yeah, the professor from those articles you sent talks about things like bright LED lights
Right.
triggering migraines for some people, or even certain types of polka dots causing feelings of dizziness or nausea.
Wow.
It's not just about aesthetics.
Yeah.
It's about how our environments truly impact our ability to even exist in a space.
That's kind of terrifying when you think about it.
Yeah.
What if you couldn't even go to the grocery store or a restaurant because the design was literally making you feel ill?
That's the reality for a lot of people, though, and it's why this professor and other designers are starting to explore what they call sensory design. It's about understanding these sensory differences and designing spaces that are inclusive and supportive for everyone.
Okay, so less about fixing people and more about making sure that design takes different needs into account from the start.
Precisely. And it can be as simple as offering different kinds of lighting in a space or being mindful of the acoustic design.
Right.
Imagine a world where classrooms had quiet areas for students who need to focus, or offices had spaces designed to minimize distractions for people with sensory sensitivities.
That would be amazing.
The professor even created this really innovative sensory room where people can go in and actually adjust the lighting, the visual elements, sounds, everything to create an environment that feels comfortable for them.
That's incredible. Kind of like those noise-canceling headphones everyone loves, but for an entire room.
Exactly.
Technology is getting so good at providing personalized experiences, it makes sense that design would start to move in that direction too. But I do have a question. If design can be used to make spaces more comfortable, does that mean it can also be used to, say, discourage certain behaviors? Yeah. That's a fascinating idea, but it does make you wonder where the line is.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are definitely some ethical considerations there.
Right.
If you can design a room to be calming, could you also design one to be purposely agitating?
Yeah.
The question this professor grapples with in his work.
It makes you realize how much we take design for granted.
Yeah.
Like we just assume that the spaces we inhabit are neutral, but they're not. Are they?
Right.
They're reflecting back at us choices that someone made, and those choices impact us.
Exactly. And that's why this concept of sensory design is so important.
Right.
It's about acknowledging that design isn't one size fits all. It's about understanding the impact these choices have on people and creating spaces that are truly inclusive and supportive for everyone.
So what's the takeaway you hope our listener walks away with today?
Well, just pay attention to how different environments make you feel.
Yeah.
Do you get anxious in bright spaces? Do you find yourself soothed by natural light? Once you start tuning into your own sensory experiences, you can start to understand how design is impacting you and advocate for spaces that better support your needs and the needs of those around you.
Yeah.
It's like he says in his lecture,
Yeah.
what kind of design can help people with individual differences? His answer, diversity design.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a great way to think about it.
Yeah.
Designing for diversity for a range of sensory experiences. It's not about saying one way of experiencing the world is right or wrong. It's about recognizing that we all perceive things differently.
Right.
And that's pretty cool when you think about it.
It really is. It makes me think about all the times I've just powered through feeling uncomfortable or on edge in a space thinking it was just me.
Yeah.
What if it didn't have to be that way?
Exactly.
What if we could all advocate for spaces that were truly designed with everyone in mind? We'll be sure to include links to some of the professor's work in the show notes. You've got to see the photos of this sensory room. It's amazing.
I agree. His work is definitely worth a closer look. Thanks for bringing it to my attention.
Yeah.
This has been a fascinating deep dive.
It has. Thanks for joining me.
Oh,